This is my mom when she was 18. She had my sister when she was 18. 10 years later, when she was 28, she had me. Altogether, she had 3 kids, all before the age of 30. I'm 33, and I have no idea when I'm gonna have a kid or if I'm gonna have a kid. So today, I wanna explore the curious case of why we are having babies later in life. And now, I know that this topic has been covered to the end and back, and we know that this trend is going up, but I want to get into the real nuances and economic reasons as to why it's becoming more and more of a challenge and why it's going to continue going in that direction. It used to be, you go to college, you finish college, you get a job, you get married, and then you have a baby all before the age of 30. Now, people regularly say that 30 is the new 20s, and you're thinking, maybe I should buy real plates. And questions like, what even is a mortgage? And the sad part is the numbers back this up. We are not just imagining it. So what is the data actually saying? In the United States, the age of motherhood has crept up year after year, slowly, gradually, but surely. According to a recent CDC report, the average age of all mothers giving birth went from 28.7 in 2016, 29.6 in 2023. For first-time moms, it climbed from 26.6 to 27.5 over the same period. This data is from the National Vital Statistics System, which tracks every birth across the country. So what is happening? We know that the age when mothers give birth for the first time has been rising consistently. We don't have the 2025 numbers yet, but given this steady climb, it's a safe assumption to make that this number will only go upward. Let's look at another OECD country, our neighbors in Canada. In Canada, the numbers are even more extreme. Statistics Canada reports that the average age of mothers at delivery hit 31.6 years in 2022. That's insane. The average age that a mom gives birth in Canada is 31.6, close to 32 years old. In 1976, only 50 years ago, that number was 26.7, around 27 years old. So in roughly one working lifetime, Canada added about 5 years to the typical age that women give birth. And it's not just that the age of birth is going up. Canada's fertility rate is sliding down. StatsCan warned that the country has moved very close to and now effectively joined what's called the ultra-low fertility countries, with around 1.3 children or fewer. So in general, when people have kids in Canada, they're having maybe 1, sometimes none. And that level is associated with a rapidly aging population and eventually a serious pressure on the labor market. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. If you zoom out to other rich countries, the pattern is very familiar. In England and Wales, the average age of first-time mothers is around 30.7 to 30.8 years old, so 31 years of age. In Australia, that number also hovers around the 30s. And in other European countries like France and Germany, that number is also creeping upwards. So the data is pretty clear. People in rich countries are having kids later, they're having fewer kids, and some places, like Canada, are already flirting in record low fertility territory. So what's driving this giant global urge to not have kids until later in life? The first reason is what I like to call spreadsheet logic. Women today are more educated than ever. That means more years in school, bigger earning potential, and a very simple question that every woman probably asks herself. Every year I'm not working is expensive. Now, that is the same thing for men too. Economists call it opportunity cost. If you've invested a decade of your life into educating yourself and pursuing your career, your time is valuable. Pausing your career at age 25 versus 35 is not the same financially. And here are facts that really back that up. Research suggests that college-educated women who wait until 31 to have their first child often end up earning more over their lifetime than women who never have kids at all. Even women who, without a college degree, delay their first-time birth to around 37 years old can add maybe about half a year of their salary to their lifetime earnings. So delaying kids isn't a selfish reason that a lot of our culture talks about. It's often a rational strategy to get promoted, to build savings, and avoid getting stuck at the bottom of the career ladder for a very long time. The second reason why people are delaying parenthood is because everything is expensive, especially children. In older agrarian communities hundreds of years ago, kids were always a net positive. They helped them in the farm, they helped them in the shop, they helped with family labor. But in this day and age, kids are often an expensive line item. Housing, food, healthcare, education, extracurricular activities, they all add up to an economic drain and a financial pull on every family's expense sheet every month. And It's not just poor families or middle-class families seeing this, it's even rich families. In today's day and age, parents are extremely involved in their child's upbringing. Parents are spending a lot more to make sure their child gets the best of what's available to them in terms of the resources parents can provide. To most parents, you're not just growing a child anymore. You're growing a high-performance, emotionally regulated, violin-playing, sports champion, future CEO. Parents feel like they need the right neighborhood, the right schools, the right extracurriculars, plus time to do all the good parent things. So what happens? People, women and men included, always say, I can't have a baby until I'm ready. And ready gets defined as a stable income, high savings, career progression, emotional maturity, maybe a therapist, and a 3-bedroom house in a safe area. So the bar keeps rising, the goalpost keeps getting further and further. And what does that mean? The baby timeline keeps sliding. Which brings me to my next point, housing. This one is huge. There's a strong cultural script in many countries that pretty much says you don't start a family until you have a stable home. And for a lot of people, stable home means owning a place big enough for kids. But in countries like the US, UK, Australia, France, Germany, housing has exploded. The prices have gone through the roof, wages have not kept up, and in general, the size of houses that builders are making now are kind of getting smaller and smaller. So people are stuck renting tiny apartments, moving often, or living with parents longer than any other generation. Here's a brutal statistic. Economic models estimate that rising housing costs since 1990 account for about 51% of the decline in fertility in the 2000s and 2010s. What does that mean? Half the drop in births is basically because of landlords, housing prices going up, and zoning. And it's not just any housing that matters. Large, family-sized units are the real bottleneck. Now, what this leads me to believe is if you increase the supply of larger family-friendly homes where there's a big house, maybe a pool, maybe a backyard, for kids to feel like they're growing up in a great house and in a great sort of family way, you will get more extra births compared to subsidizing small units that make it more affordable for families. So a lot of governments talk about fertility and incentivizing births, but if you're ignoring housing, the housing supply, and the prices skyrocketing, it's like trying to fix your Wi-Fi by yelling at your laptop instead of resetting the router. Also, another unique thing is that rising housing prices creates two groups. There are the insiders. These are people who already own homes. Their wealth goes up with house prices, and they can borrow against that equity or sell that house or do whatever to fund the raising of their kids. And then you have outsiders. These are renters, folks in the younger generation. Higher prices means there's more delay and more incentive not to have a kid. And guess what? There are far more outsiders who don't own property than insiders who do. So delayed motherhood and delayed parenthood and smaller families aren't evenly distributed. They hit hardest for people who aren't already wealthy. So the reason why birth rates are declining, one of the major factors is that women are more educated, they're willing to pursue their careers for a longer period of time before having a kid, and men want to make sure they're financially stable before they can afford a kid. And the other big reason is housing. Both men and women want to have a stable family home before they have a kid. So those combinations are really what's driving folks to delay childbirth. Now, I want to look at what happens when you wait too long to have a kid. So according to Evidence-Based Birth, a site that really goes deep into the science of childbirth, there's something devious and diabolical that your body does to the baby that you're putting out if you delay childbirth. Now, you probably know where this is going. Doctors call pregnancy at age 35 or older as advanced maternal age. AMA. Catchy, right? Nothing like being labeled advanced for doing what the economy basically forces you to do. Anyways, here's what's going on with advanced maternal age. For a woman, biologically, fertility starts declining around the age of 35. It drops faster after 37. By 45, natural pregnancy is very unlikely, and the risks go up. Higher chance of gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, more C-sections required, more preterm births, and low birth weight for the baby. Miscarriage risk also spikes. At age 20 to 30, about 9 to 17% of women have miscarriages. At 35, around 20%. At 40, around 40%. At 45, up to 80%. And the risk of chromosomal conditions like Down syndrome increase sharply. At age 25, 1 in 1,340 babies may have Down syndrome. At age 30, 1 in 939 babies. At age 35, 1 in 353 babies. At age 40, 1 in 85 babies. At age 45, 1 in 35 babies. So you've got this horrible combo. The system, the economy, the current policy environment pushes you to delay kids for money and stability. And then biology punishes that delay with higher risk and more difficulty to have a kid. This is where the big conundrum comes in. A lot of couples run into fertility issues right at the point where they finally feel ready to have a child. Some turn to expensive fertility treatments. Others face repeated pregnancy losses. And some end up foregoing parenthood entirely. Not because they didn't want kids, but the timing window closed. So this brings me to my conclusion. What does this mean for the society at large? Let's zoom out. When millions of people delay or have fewer kids, you don't just get older moms. You get what's called sub-replacement fertility. Fewer than 2.1 kids per woman. You get a shrinking younger population. You get a rapidly growing older population. We're already seeing this in countries like Japan and China, who have rapidly aging populations and not enough births to make up for that rapidly increasing older generation. In the US, the total fertility rate is around 1.6. That's already below the replacement level. Many rich countries are even lower. By 2050, in some places, the share of people aged 65 and above is projected to jump from 17% to around 30%. That means more retirees, fewer workers, huge pressure on healthcare and pension systems, governments scrambling to fund social programs. And to compensate for fewer workers, what's going to happen? We're already seeing this. In the age of AI and robotics, you'll see more automation and robots stepping in to fill jobs. This can also increase inequality as younger workers become more irrelevant and corporations drive more profits through automation and robotics. Capital owners will benefit more than regular workers. On top of that, countries with shrinking populations risk losing geopolitical power. Smaller armies, smaller markets, less influence. So yeah, one couple in a small apartment deciding to wait just a few more years to have a baby doesn't feel like a big deal. But if you multiply that by tens of millions, you get a demographic shakeup. So what do we do about it? Can we even fix this? This isn't just a tell people to have babies earlier problem. People are simply responding rationally to the conditions that they are in. So if we want to change the timing, we have to change the conditions. What are those solutions? A, make housing more affordable. B, support childcare so parents don't lose their careers. 3, create flexible work programs so having a baby at 27 doesn't mean career suicide. And 4, offer good fertility education and access. The conclusion is, if societies want more babies earlier, they have to stop making it feel like a financial and biological burden to have one. Let me know what you think about this video. If you are planning on having kids, or if you are planning on delaying kids, or have thoughts about how money, the economy, policies are preventing you from having that child that you have dreamed about your whole life, please reply in the comments, add your thoughts, share, like, and follow my channel. It takes me a lot of time to research and record these videos for you, not to mention editing them. So until next time.